asking a question will be required to provide their full name and organization or community in which you live or from which you come. Participants on Zoom, you'll be asked to raise that little hand feature, and then you'll be acknowledged for your turn for a question. Once identified, then you can turn on your video if you can. Alternately, you may type the question into the chat. Each person is allowed one dege question, all right? Because we try to accommodate everyone. Now, take this bit of information I'm about to share with you very seriously, because these are the contacts that you will need to ask your questions. Questions will be taken in the following order. There is a specific order. Power 106. So any question that goes to their phone line, we start off with that. And the number for that is 876-922-4112-5. Here we go again. 876-922-4112-5. The Environmental Solutions Limited, they also have a number, or numbers, there are two. 876-978-9519, 876-978-9519, or 876-978-6297. I'm repeating them, so you have every opportunity to take them down. Then there is Zoom, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, and of course we have our in-person audience. So we've pretty much outlined how the evening will progress, so now it gives me great pleasure to ask His Worship the Mayor, Delroy Williams, Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, to officially welcome us all here at the Jamaica Conference Center in Kingston, Jamaica. We are in Conference Room 2.
Mr. Mark Golding, Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Southern, the Honorable Desmond Mackenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development and Member of Parliament for Kingston Western, members of the Cabinet, Senator the Honorable Tom Tavares Finsel, President of the Senate, Mrs. Marisa Dalrymple Filbert, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Senator Ransford Braham, Chairman of the Board of the Urban Development Corporation, and other members of the board, Mr. Donovan Williams and Mr. Philip Paulwell, members of Parliament for Kingston Central and East Kingston and Port Royal, respectively, Councillors Donovan Samuels and Jermaine Ayat, the Tivoli Gardens and Denham Town divisions, respectively. Ms. Heather Pinnock, General Manager, Executive Management and Staff of the Urban Development Corporation, and Mr. Evan Williams, Design Collaborative Limited, and members of the Design Collaborative team, community members, and members of the media, those viewing, good evening. Well, my job is very simple. It is to welcome you all here again. And you are resident in the, most of you are resident in the city of Kingston. But so let me welcome you here, but for a very important project to the city and a very important project to the neighboring communities. And I'm aware that it's being carried in several communities, Almond Town and others, I believe also in sections of West Kingston. So the residents are tuning in, and because it's a very important project, is for us, the municipality, it's part of the transformative, is one of those transformative projects in the city of Kingston. We believe at the end of this project, the city of Kingston will no longer be the same. It will be a different city of Kingston. And it's part of the redevelopment of the city of Kingston. It's part of the transformation of the city of Kingston into what we call a destination city at the municipality. So it fits in well with the destination city concept, and it fits in well with creating spaces, recreational and leisure spaces for our residents. We have, as part of our vision at the municipality, to the creation of different types, multiple spaces for our residents to enjoy. When I walk through my division and sections of the municipality and public holidays, you would hear people saying that they're going to Mandela Park or they're going to Emancipation Park. But most persons would tell you they're going to Emancipation Park. And if you walk around my division, most persons would say they're going to Emancipation Park on a public holidays. And it's good, but for me, it triggered something that said, we need multiple spaces for our residents to enjoy. It can't be that they just have Emancipation Park that they have to go to. And I know there are other parks, but for me, it triggered that to say we need to create multiple spaces for our residents to enjoy. Not just to enjoy, but for us to take pride in. And I end by saying this. About 200 years ago, the Kingston Council took the decision to purchase the land that was then known as the Kingston Racecourse, now known as the National Heroes Park. That was a critical decision that the council took. And the council at that time must be commended for that decision, because that's part of the reason why we have that property today. That is a significant piece or area in our history, but also an area that is now to house the Houses of Parliament. The municipality takes pride, and I know the minister has followed the law in the consultation process, but minister, you can count on us that we are leading the process to donate or transfer without compensation the property there. And I say that, and I say without compensation, because for us, I don't believe we could live to want to be compensated for the People's Parliament. For the People's Parliament. The Houses of Parliament belong to the people of our country. In our case here, it belongs to the people of the municipality. And for us to say that we want to be paid for the property, Minister, I don't know, I couldn't sleep with that. We want the Kingston and Central and the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. We want to be recorded in history as playing a significant role in building this new parliament, a symbol of pride for our country. So 200 years from now, Minister, the municipality wants to be remembered as honoring our commitment to the people of the municipality and as taking a place of pride in the municipality in having the new building, the Houses of Parliament, in the municipality, in the capital city of the country, but also the fact that we played an important role in that. So I rest that case, and you can count on us that we will lead that charge within the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Council. So it was a good decision, a very good decision for the council to have purchased the property 200 years ago, because now the municipality can now hand that property over to the government to build the Houses of Parliament in the interest of the people of the country. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, on behalf of the people of Jamaica, let me say thank you. Thank you very much. A project like this had many different people coming together to make it work. But I want to share with you how proud I am that many of the people who contributed to this project are indeed Jamaicans. If you just allow me, and during the course of the evening, I'll mention the international ones, but right now, those who are the Jamaicans. Design Collaborative Limited, Evan Williams, Jamaica. All right? Environmental Solutions Limited, Structural Engineering, Julio Chin, Civil Engineering, Julio Chin, MEP Engineering, Satin, Landscape Consultant, Marian Twyman, Quantity Surveyor, Handel, Boyne, Boris and Wallace, Traffic Engineering, Premier Land and Water, Land Survey, Geographics Limited, and Geotech, NHL Engineering. I'll give you some more information about others who've contributed, other individuals and companies. And now, may I ask Mr. Yannick Watson, Chief Technical Officer, who will be speaking on behalf of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, to bring opening remarks.
Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Mark Golden, Honorable Minister, Mr. Desmond Mackenzie, and other members of the Cabinet, His Worship the Mayor, Senator Delroy Williams, other senators here with us today, Chairman of the Senate. We have here with us as well Chairman of UDC, Senator Ransford Braham. We want to other members of the UDC team, led by Heather Pinnock, members of the media, members of the public, good afternoon. Today, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is pleased to be here pressing towards the long-awaited Houses of Parliament building. This public consultation is an important step in the process, as the environmental impact assessment is a requirement by the NEPA, and we are committed to adhering to the necessary processes to ensure that we maintain good practices in our development projects. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, as UDC's parent ministry, has been integral in the project and is committed to seeing it through to completion. You may recall that in 2018, conditional approval was given by the Public Investment Management Committee for the entire government campus project concept, which includes the Houses of Parliament building. Since then, the UDC has carried out the planning and project management for the Houses of Parliament with professionalism and efficiency, including utilizing a public design competition as the means to identify a suitable design and procure a technical design team, adding to the project's transparency. Other deliverables have been met despite the setbacks due to COVID-19, and we thank the design collaborative team for the significant work done thus far. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon's consultation is another measure of ensuring transparency and public participation as a Houses of Parliament project, as your feedback is necessary for us to continue moving forward. I wish to thank the UDC for leading the charge on this project. I would also like to acknowledge the consultant team led by Design Collaborative for the work done to date on the EIA, and encourage the public to review the document and inquire as necessary, as the project impacts not only the immediate communities, but the wider Jamaican public. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation looks forward to this afternoon's meaningful discussions. Thank you.
Yes, he will hear if you clap. Thank you, Mr. Watson, Chief Technical Officer, speaking on behalf of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. I want to just acknowledge a few of our international team counterparts, because a lot of partnership and collaboration went on. Hines Architecture and Design, Damian S. Hines, Christopher Bent, want to acknowledge you. Gregory Lake, Nico Sterling, Chris Oliver, Logan Kemp, Juliana Tuma, and there are others. So it's quite a massive project. And now, from the National Environmental and Planning Agency, Mr. Miguel Nelson, Manager, Application Secretariat Branch at NEPA, will address us. Could you welcome him?
Good afternoon. Mr. Mark Golding, Opposition Leader. Mr. Honorable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Community Development. Mr. Delroy Williams, Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew. Colleagues, friends, members of Jamaica community, good afternoon. On the 8th of May 2020, the National Environment and Planning Agency received an environmental permit application from the Urban Development Corporation, reference number 2020-02017 EP 00091, for the construction and operation of an office and commercial complex of 5,000 square meters or greater at National Heroes Park, St. Andrew. The information submitted in support of the application was reviewed, and after screening, it was decided that an environmental impact assessment would be required for the proposed project. Integral to the EIA process is the requirement for a mandatory public meeting or consultation to provide interested parties and individuals an opportunity to have a say in the decision-making process. Consequent to COVID-19 and the Disaster Risk Management Act orders on public gathering, the NEPA, Natural Resources Conservation Authority, accepted that it would not be prudent to have a physical meeting at this time. The alternative of a virtual meeting captures all the major tenets and principles of a physical meeting. This virtual public meeting, therefore, is intended to broaden the inclusion process and garner the views of all. The audience should be advised that no final decision has yet been made on the applications submitted. Participants should note that this public meeting is deemed important, and the outcome from the meeting will be submitted to the Natural Resources Conservation Authority to guide the decision-making process. The agency is present to support the process and to ensure that the public meeting, though virtual, is undertaken in accordance with the terms outlined in the document titled General Guidelines for Public Consultation, EIA Applications. As a regulator, the agency must remain objective and as such will not participate in making comments or answering questions in relation to the development. Note too that the process with respect to the public presentation, the agency wishes to highlight the following with respect to the public meeting. As mentioned before, a copy of the verbatim minutes from the public meeting is to be submitted to the agency by the applicant within 7 days of this public meeting. And once received and verified, the agency will post those verbatim minutes to its website. The public is allowed 21 days after the public presentation to provide written comments to the agency. These comments may be submitted to the agency at 10 Caledonia Avenue, Kingston 5, or via electronic mail at applications@nepa.gov.jm. That's applications@nepa.gov.jm. All comments received by the agency will be collated and sent to the applicant for responses to be provided. The issues raised along with the responses provided by the applicant are incorporated in the respective submissions to the various committees and the authority and will facilitate deliberation on the technical merits of the project. A recommendation will be made to the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, which is the body responsible for making the final decision on the applications. Please note carefully that a final decision on the application has not been made and is the sole responsibility of the Natural Resources Conservation Authority. The agency views public presentation and public consultation as extremely important and in the application review and decision-making process. Public presentations provide an additional opportunity for stakeholders to air concerns, make comments, share opinions and views on development projects, and affords the applicant an opportunity to address these concerns, comments, opinions, or views. The public is reminded that the environmental impact assessment report for the proposed development is available for viewing by the public at the following locations: the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Library, Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the Crossroads Police Station, the Crossroads Post Office, NEPA's Documentation Center at 11 Caledonia Avenue, Kingston 5, the Urban Development Corporation's website, which is www.udcja.com, the National Environment and Planning Agency's website, which is www.nepa.gov.jm, and Environmental Solution Limited's website, which is www.eslcaribbean.com. Finally, be reminded again that comments may be sent to the Application Secretariat branch of the National Environment and Planning Agency at 10 Caledonia Avenue, Kingston 5, or via electronic mail at applications@nepa.gov.jm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Nelson. We're going to move on now to a joint presentation that will be done via Zoom, and that is to be done by Damian Hines and Chris Bent on the Houses of Parliament design. So we now turn our eyes and our focus to the screens in the conference center, and on Zoom you now see this presentation.
Chris, unmute.
Okay, got it. Okay, we'll get started. Just want to observe all the protocols with all the officials that are on the call, as well as all the authorities and also the community members on the call. We're just going to take you on a quick trip through the design of this amazing facility, and trying to give you a kind of bird's eye view of what it's going to be like, and hopefully you'll get a better appreciation for what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. So we just started off with this statement here. The community-centric design has the power and positively transform National Heroes Park into an attraction by embracing its neighboring communities and inspiring the national pride through enhanced access to the largest public space in Kingston. The park itself and the project is a 52-acre park, which is located right on the border of Kingston and St. Andrew. And on the screen, you can see that it's where it's located off of Morosco Road, with Almond Town to the eastern side, Jonestown on the western side, and to the south near Duke Street, we have Fletcher's Town. And then just to the north, adjacent to Morosco Road, you have Wilma's schools, both high schools, girls and boys. So that's the general area, and as I mentioned, it's 52 acres. The actual area for the Houses of Parliament is on 9 acres. It's under 9 acres, which is dedicated to the Parliament. So when you look at the overall, it's a very small portion of the overall park that is going to be used to house the Houses of Parliament. If we could go to the next slide, Damien. And that's just to give you a graphic scale between the overall park, 52 acres, and the actual building, the Parliament building. So as we said, it's about 85% open public park that we're created. It's already, we're not creating it, it's there already, but we're going to enhance it, and we're going to try to demonstrate how we can make it even more accessible to the public than it is currently. Next slide, please. The overall, just to give you an idea of what it is that we're doing, and we'll go into it in more detail, is that we're looking at adding about 1,000 more trees to the site. We're going to be making sure that we use plants and trees that are readily available and endemic to Jamaica. We're making sure that we are putting in a series of defined walkways and trails throughout the site, which will help to frame different activities throughout the park. We've looked at the improvement of infrastructure strategies around the park, how we manage water, how we manage water to irrigate the site, as well as how we're going to manage and control stormwater running off of the site. And we'll get into that in a bit more detail when the EIA, when Environmental Solutions, is going to present. We're talking about a barrier-free park, which means it's not only open to anybody in the public, but it's also very accessible for anyone who has any form of disability. It's anywhere in that park. Anyone of any disability will be able to go and enjoy any area within the park. We're adding a lot of amenities, and we're going to show you some of them or most of them that we have in the park. But it's obviously there are some existing features in the park which we have respected, and we're going to enhance those. So areas like the shrine and the Patriot Circle, we're going to make sure that those are enshrined, properly addressed and detailed, and hopefully they will attract more public interest in them than currently exists. And then what is really important is everyone being secure, using the space at different times of the day, late into the evening, that you can use it and feel secure in there. As I mentioned, irrigate the green park areas. There are strategies for making sure that we have enough water to irrigate this 50-acre park, and a lot of it has to do with existing groundwater, access to existing groundwater to be able to use that for irrigation. And of course, we are designing the entire park to an international, not just the park, but the building itself to international standards. And the intent is for this building and the park to what we call shadow. We're building it to LEED specifications, which is recognize the building being environmentally responsive. So we're using those as our key drivers for the design of this project. National Heroes Park, the principles behind the whole design is to protect, honor, play. We're talking about health, reverence, culture, duty, and most importantly, pride. This is going to be a pride of place. We want every Jamaican, everybody who visits this place and enjoys the facility to have national pride in what we're providing, when they said we as a people, Jamaicans, are creating. So this is a quick overview of what Heroes Park is going to be transformed into. Just to give you your orientation, the area on the left-hand side of the screen is the northern end where Wilma's Boys is, the entry to Wilma's Boys. On the side where you have the word vision, that's where Alma Town is, and that building there that's been circled, that's the Ministry of Finance. On the southern end, on the far end, that's where we come up Duke Street, and just to the left of that, we have Ministry of Education. The shrine area is right in the background there. That's where the existing shrine with all the heroes, where all the heroes are buried. So that just gives you a kind of overview of the orientation of the site. So there are things that when we first join in the process of moving forward from the competition, we started off with having several public meetings and workshops. We've met with various stakeholders, local community, statutory authorities, various government groups, National Heritage Trust, security, which included the police, the JDF, and aviation authorities. Obviously we met with environmental agencies, and we looked at the traffic study as well. So all of that feed into the solutions that we're showing you. On this map, you can see on the right-hand side is where we have the Ministry of Finance and Almond Town. And again, on the left-hand side, which is the west side, is Slipe Road and Orange Street connection with King Street at the lower end. We were very interested in making sure that the park had a good connection from north to south. We wanted the park to be a public park, with the House of Parliament sitting within the park. We wanted to make sure that we did not cut the park into 3 portions. It's one park with a building sitting in the middle of it. What did we learn out of the consultations that we have? We learned that the park has great history. We learned that the park is the gateway between Kingston and St. Andrew. We learned that this place is a place for community pride. Sports and recreation spaces for surrounding residents. A place for food. In the southern end, we have the crab and corn and soup vendors, which we think it's an institution to the area, and we respect that. And of course, it's a place where we honor our heroes, our former leaders, and our cultural icons. So all of those things would play into what we came up with this design. We wanted to build on those concepts. The symbol of national pride with an icon of our people and our democracy. And most importantly, a place for people, the people's park. It's a place for everyone to use and enjoy. A place that is which truly represents not only the surrounding communities, but also all people of this nation. As our motto states, out of many, one people. The planning of the park was, as I mentioned, completely open and accessible. We looked at basically four or five different sections, starting off at the southern end. We have the existing shrine with all the heroes. We enhanced that area for the kind of events and ceremonies that they have in there. When we were meeting with the JDF, who has overall care for this area, they were saying that a lot of locals didn't realize that this place is open to anyone at any time. It's an enclosed space, and they were encouraging us to try and open it up so that people could realize that you can go there and pay your respect at any time of the day or any time of the year. So we took that into consideration. The existing wall, we tried to create new openings in the wall. We tidied up some of the areas of the wall, which made it more visible to see into the shrine area. And then adjacent to that, where you have what we call now the Patriot Circle, where the former prime ministers, governor generals, and cultural icons are buried. We started to formalize that area a lot more to respect their contribution that they made. Just above that area, we have another area which we call the, if we could go to the next slide, which we call the People's Plaza, which is right around where you see letters J and R. And the main feature there, we have a public space with a public waterfall feature, what we call it the water wall, which is quite a dramatic water feature which allows the public to use that space. That water is not just there for show, it's an area where they can interact with the water falling down these terraced walls. In addition to that, we'll be having tables and benches and scattered around where people can go and play dominoes. People can go and use it for playing drafts or going for picnics or whatever. You know, at lunchtime, you can go from your offices next door and go and have lunch here. And you have the backdrop of the water feature. At the area B, which is just to the north of the water feature, we have what we call the Constitution Plaza, which is an area which terraces up to from Morosco Road up to the HOP building. And that area will have a pavilion where you can have concerts, you can have cultural events, you can have meetings, whatever. You can have a wedding there if you want to. And it's a lawn area which terraces up. And we call that Constitution Plaza, and it can house about 10,000 people in there. What the area that we're showing you now is the area of the House of Parliament, which would be fenced off. We have to provide a fence around it for security reasons, and we've reduced it from originally it was 11.4 acres, and we've tightened it up so that we have about 8 to 9 acres of fenced off area for the House of Parliament. And we made sure that we opened up the side areas from north to south so that we can have easy public access moving from north to south. It's unimpeded access from north to south for the public. And then at the northern end, we have an open field, and at the very top of that area, closest to Wilmer's, we have what we call our Out of Many One People monument, which will have a series of statues looking inwards to show our diversity of our population. Out of many one people. We all are one people. We may look a little different, but we're all Jamaican. What we also looked at is the various entrances onto the site. We've more or less kept all of the entrances. We've had to shift them a little bit so we make sure it's aligned with our plan. But pretty much we have 8 entrances onto the site, which are all public entrances. And that just gives you another area of breakdown of all the public spaces that we have had. We have open spaces scattered throughout at the north, down on the east and west of the site, which will have open fields, lawn areas, which can be used for multiple reasons, whether it's football or whether it's cricket, flying kites. Those areas indicated in brown, those are play areas for the younger children to use. It's all about the family coming together, using this space, enjoying the facilities. This, which is a confusing drawing, but it's a very useful drawing because we have outlined the pathways that we've created throughout the park, each one of them connecting to all of those main areas of activities throughout the park. Along these pathways, we'll also have the opportunity for various sculptures depicting our culture and heritage. And each one of them will be representing one of the 14 parishes throughout the island. So that is not going to be built into the project right away, but we have identified all the areas so that over the years we can build on that and we get different artists to participate in honoring those. If you could just go back, Damien, just to identify that, that's what we're talking about, that water feature there on the right, which will be that area off of the People's Plaza. And if we go to the next, these are just some images of the landscaping at different angles. This is the main entry at the public entry to the park on the southern end of the site, where we've separated, because of the height difference, we separated the public entry from the public and staff entry from the ceremonial entry. This is the shrine area looking towards the building to the north, and the Patriot Circle in between. And again, you can just see the outline of the water wall, the water feature that's there looking northwards. And then this is just a quick overview of the site in the context of the greater Kingston and St. Andrew area, as it fits into the urban context of the site.
And when it comes to the building, the site and building are intended to work together. The principles for the building is to inspire, to promote governance, reverence for our traditions, and obviously to implement our laws. With that, it is to be noted that the building design, a circular form, is intended not to have a front, a back, or a side. Our position is that the building should present its face to the community, and no one side has more privilege than the other. A quick overview in respect to time. At the formal ceremonial entrance to the north, that is the primary entrance for parliamentary activities. You enter along the main entrance into a main lobby. The areas in green represent parliament spaces. The two major spaces are the Senate and the House of Representatives. Surrounding those spaces in green are support offices for those functions and committee rooms to support those functions. The circular building is organized with a central corridor, as we call it, spine, a crossroad, and a ring road to ensure that there is good circulation throughout the building. At level 2, in green, again, is the Senate and the House of Representatives. These are the galleries for the public at level 2, looking down into the debate chamber floors. Same as level 1, support offices, administrative offices in brown, surround the parliament rooms. What we've also done to ensure this is a state-of-the-art space is introduce 2 interior gardens where natural light from skylights are introduced to promote a better internal environment. The approach from the south, as Chris mentioned, along the south is the visitor and staff entrance to the building. And from there, visitors would enter along the same central spine at level 0. At the entrance, we will have spaces for visitors, cafe. We'll have a canteen so that members of parliament can break bread with their constituents. Along the main boulevard, there is a parliamentary library in green. There's also a parliamentary museum here in blue. and other support spaces for the function of Parliament, including printing, including conference rooms and such. What you may have noticed in the site plan, you will not see large parking lots at surface. All you see is a green park. As Chris mentioned, 85% of the park is open space, lawn space, green space, program space. You do not see large parking structures or parking lots. All of those parking spaces, which are indicated here in blue, are below a green roof. Again, as mentioned, the intent is for the park to remain as public, as green as possible. Quickly, these are sections showing how the spaces are organized. You have the multi-floor House of Representatives chamber. You have the Senate, which is a smaller version of the House of Representatives debate chamber. With that, we would like to thank you. We understand this is where the work starts with the balance of the presentation. Thank you for your time, and we will be glad to answer any questions in regard to the site.
Thank you very much to Damian Hines and Chris Bent for their presentation on the design of the Houses of Parliament. Those questions we will take immediately after you hear from the next speaker. But before I introduce her, I think up until 2 minutes ago we had 190 people on Zoom, and perhaps 20 minutes ago 44 on YouTube. And of course, we do know that persons are listening on Power 106 and they are logged into the websites. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, Manager, Environmental Management Services and Environmental Solutions Limited, to make the presentation of the the impact assessment findings and measurements, which measures to minimize impacts. That's the presentation on the environmental impact assessment findings and measures to minimize impacts. If you'll allow me just to, she's going to use this mic to sanitize before she comes. These are different times. Could you welcome her?
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today we are presenting the findings of the Draft Environmental Impact Assessment Report on the Government of Jamaica Houses of Parliament at the National Heroes Park. I will be briefly presenting the EIA report because, as it has been announced, it is online and physically available for viewing. And so this presentation is only intended to highlight some of the briefly some of the findings of the EIA. So I'll be walking through the Environmental Impact Assessment Report, identifying or speaking to the methodology and approach that was used, briefly describing the existing environment, and having examined the project, identified the potential impacts and mitigation measures, some of the cumulative impacts and consideration of alternatives, and finally by presenting our concluding statement. We have heard a bit about the project already, so briefly, when we speak about the project, we're referring to the plan to construct this new Jamaican Houses of Parliament. It's on about 8 acres of land. The project is intended to transform the remaining land of the National Heroes Park into a green area, and this is so as to reaffirm the park's significance as a recreational space for the public. The intention is that it will provide the freedom to socialize, relax, connect with nature, and conduct business. As many of us know already where the National Heroes Park is, but the project is going to be located within the boundaries of the park. And this park is already bound by a number of government buildings, as well as 5 main communities, including Crossroads to the north, Almond Town to the east, Fletcher's Land to the south, and Hannahtown and Jonestown to the west. So the project came about after the Design Collaborative Limited team was awarded a competition, and it is called Out of Many. The design is called Out of Many, One People. And Environmental Solutions Limited was contracted by Design Collaborative Limited. And today, what we're doing is presenting the findings and getting validation on the draft Environmental Impact Assessment Report. We have already heard briefly, the purpose of the EIA is to provide an overview of the proposed project, as well as the physical and environmental setting in which the project is located. It is also intended to identify potential environmental and social impacts and risks of the proposed projects, as well as to suggest recommended mitigation measures. For many years, George William Gordon House has served as the location for the Government of Jamaica Houses of Parliament. But as far back as the 1950s, the government had realized that there was a need for larger space. And there was a vision at that time to develop a concept of a government campus at the park, where the Houses of Parliament would be located, along with the head of offices of the various government ministries surrounding. The idea of the government campus begins with the construction of the new Houses of Parliament at the National Heroes Park. And for some of us who don't know, this was very informative to me. The King George VI Memorial Park Act of 1956 actually outlines what the park can be used for, and namely public garden, pleasure park, and recreational area, and for the construction of parliament buildings and any other administrative buildings. It also indicates that only a maximum of 11.4 acres can be used. And as you can see from the earlier presentation, the project encompasses all of these things. Briefly, our approach to conducting the environmental impact assessment included background research, data collection. We did field assessments, including the physical and ecological, looking at heritage and the socioeconomic environment. And following this, the data was analyzed to determine potential impacts, both positive and negative, and we identified or suggested feasible mitigation measures where necessary. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the existing environment, looking at the physical, ecological, heritage, and the socioeconomic environment. The site is located on the Ligani Plain, which is within the Kingston metropolitan area. It's generally flat and slopes towards the south. It is located atop the alluvial aquifer, and the soil is generally stable and is not likely to liquefy in case of a seismic activity. It is also located in the Hope River Watershed Management Unit in the McGregor Gully Sub-Basin, and the drainage passes through the site through a concrete culvert into the Barnes Gully to the south. Briefly on the climate and natural hazards, the climate of the area is generally consistent with what is experienced by the rest of the Kingston and St. Andrew area, which is where we have a tropical maritime climate, bimodal rainfall with peaks in May and October, and like Jamaica, it is susceptible to tropical cyclones and earthquakes. There is a well on site. However, the results indicated that there are high levels of fecal coliform and nitrate levels. Air quality samples were taken from about 8 locations within and around the site, and all of them had concentrations less than the standard of 150 micrograms per meter air. The same 8 sites where noise samples were taken, and most of the sites already exceed the NEPA standard of 65 decibels for commercial areas. Examining the ecology of the site, You can see some images here. The site is not considered to be ecologically sensitive. It has a history of disturbance related to significant vegetation clearance and landscaping as part of the different uses of the park. It is currently 90% dominated by grasslands and or scrubby, and it also has a few trees and shrubs. There were no species of special conservation status, meaning no endemic, threatened, or protected species that were observed at the time of our assessment. This just is a graphical representation where you see that it is largely grassland with low tree density. The site itself has a long and varied history, going as far back as the 1700s for entertainment and sports. In 1754, the property was called Montgomery Pen, and if I couldn't list everything on the screen, so this is just a very brief list of some of the uses of the site. In 1804 to about 1953, that period, the site hosted horse racing events. In the 1850s, it served as a burial site for cholera victims. In 1907, a refugee camp as a result of the earthquake. It hosted dance hall events in the 1950s, and currently it is a resting place for the country's national heroes and other national figures. A brief look at the socioeconomic environment. These are the tones that I had indicated border the property. We spoke to over 400 persons, both community and business operators. And from the community, about 62.2% approved the project. And while 22% did not approve it, the remaining persons had no opinion or just didn't respond. 64% of business operators consulted were favorable of the project, and 57.2% felt that the project was necessary. However, a few concerns were raised by both groups. There were concerns raised about the traffic that the project could potentially generate, concerns about access to the space, what about waste management, the fear of relocation, employment opportunities. We spoke with the groups and asked what are some suggestions if they had an opportunity to suggest what this space could be used for, and just to indicate that most persons expressed something like an emancipation park, green space. They wanted that green space. Some persons indicated technical vocation center, and very few suggested maybe housing, sports, or a fire station complex. We examined the project and we identified some potential impacts and proposed mitigation measures for construction and the operation phase of the project, and also looked at the cumulative impacts of the project. So I'm going to first briefly go through some of the potential construction impacts that we identified and the mitigation measures. Please note that they're not always negative. There are positive and negative impacts that have been identified. In the construction phase, when we look at hydrology and drainage, there is anticipation that because of clearance of the site, there is potential for increased sediment runoff and increased runoff from the site during preparation of the land. However, we have proposed several mitigations and measures, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but to highlight a few that we have proposed that during construction, the contractors install silt traps, cover the material, rather than clearing the land fully, but doing it in stages, and contouring the site in such a way during clearance to allow for infiltration prior to replanting. And it is also important to note that while we were coming up with some of these mitigation measures, it was a very informative approach to doing this project. So we worked very closely with the design team. So they have also taken some of these mitigation measures already on board into their design where possible. The air quality impacts, there will likely be there's a potential for an increase in air pollutants and dust and elevated noise levels due to the increase in a number of construction vehicles, and therefore it is suggested that firstly, any of the construction vehicles that are used are properly maintained so that they're working optimally. Speed limits are put in place and enforced to reduce any kind of fugitive dust, as well as from a health and safety perspective. The site be frequently used, and where possible, dust screens be used. Obviously, periodic monitoring is something that will be required, and reports submitted to the National Environmental Planning Agency. Any material that is to be transported should be covered and properly stored, and all persons are required to wear appropriate personal protective gears. From an ecological perspective, while it is not considered to be ecologically sensitive, whatever flora and fauna that is present is likely to be displaced. And therefore, the mitigation measures, however, there's also the positive side of the project, which is intended to boost ecosystem services through the provision of urban green space. And so some of the mitigation measures related to how work is undertaken, not working at peak bird activity times, and how the site is cleared, doing it in stages versus clearing it in full, and ensuring that the contractors develop a landscape or urban green management plan. It is 70% of the trees or plants to be replanted are going to be native to Jamaica, and the remainder are supposed to be adapted to the region. This has been, we have proposed that local species be used as much as possible, and this is just to indicate that the designers have already taken this into consideration. From a social aspect, there's likely to be increase in traffic and increased social apprehension and tensions, including anxiety, anger, and potential for increase in crime. We have suggested that a traffic management plan be prepared. This has been done, and therefore it needs to be implemented. And as much as possible, where possible, persons within the community to be employed, and ensuring that the project executing agency has open and frequent communication with the community throughout the construction process. This image shows that these are some of the proposed traffic construction routing. So rather than there will be indenting or creating a slip lane to allow for construction vehicles to enter so as not to cause any traffic backup. And so you'll see that there is a construction entrance. This is Torrington Avenue here, and there will be a guard booth constructed and set back to allow for less stacking up of the vehicles. There is the positive, from the economic side, during construction, there's likely to be improved or increases in employment and economic opportunities. And as much as possible, if there's any possibility for local persons to be employed, they should be announced as early as possible so as to reduce any anxiety or concerns. During construction, there may be a potential to uncover items of significant cultural heritage. There might be a damage to items of significant cultural heritage, unlikely but possible, and therefore a watching brief or a watching brief has been suggested to be prepared, and this is going to catalog how the construction process should take place near to any artifacts or anything of significant cultural heritage value. JNHT would be present on site along with a team of archaeologists to ensure that they're on standby during any particular location where there might be excavation or land clearance. When we look at the operation phase of the project, we also had to identify if there were any possible impacts and suggest any mitigation measures. Because there is likely to be an increase in impermeable surfaces, there will be an increase in runoff. However, and therefore, as much as possible, the design is to capture the rainwater and allow for infiltration. The design, this was communicated with the designers, and as much as possible, they have taken this into consideration. So you can see that the design has allowed for detention areas, so it will reduce any potential runoff that could potentially overwhelm the Barnes Gully. From an ecological perspective, the positive impact is there will be an increase in green area within the project area. And as much as possible, local species we have suggested be used. And as I'd indicated before, we have 70% of the species to be used, or the plants to be used, are going to be local. And this image actually demonstrates that it is a lot of green space, much more than what is presently there. And this is just a few of the species that are being considered. And I think there is actually a nursery that has been started to the south of the property with about 1,000 species. From a social aspect, there is likely to be an increase in the volume of cars in the area because it will be attracting more people. There will be an increase in visitors to the park, hopefully not just to enjoy for recreational purposes, but to also view the heritage features. And as much as possible, we are suggesting that traffic signals be used to control the flow of traffic. A traffic management plan will have to be prepared, and utilize signals or signs as much as possible throughout the property to educate persons as to the history of the site. There, as indicated, the impacts are largely positive. There will be play zones, recreational areas, entertainment zones. Chris indicated that about 10,000 persons could have a function in one location. There is a potential for the National Heroes Park to become a catalyst in the development in both the economic and psychic landscape of a future Kingston. And these are just a few images that I don't think, Chris mentioned where you'll see this is a water feature, and you'll see that it really encourages persons to come and relax and enjoy the space. Following the impact assessment, we had to prepare management and monitoring plans, which take into consideration the proposed impacts and the mitigation measures. A management and monitoring program is important to manage the construction and operation impacts. They are intended to be used by the contractor during construction and by the operator during operation. And the executing agency will be responsible for ensuring that they are actually used. We prepared management plans and monitoring plans for the major risks that were identified, and these related to air quality, noise, waste management, health and safety, water quality, emergency response, flora and fauna, chance find program, or the watching brief, which I mentioned, and traffic management. These have all been prepared and submitted to the agency. From a cumulative point of view, we spoke about the government campus, and there has been a recent commissioning of a master plan concept for the area which surrounds the National Heroes Park, which is supposed to be called the Government Circle. Now, with this project, along with the new government of Jamaica Houses of Parliament, there is likely to be an increase in traffic, an increased demand for parking, greater water demand and usage, because you have more buildings, we have more persons, greater sewage production and solid waste generation, greater noise, and a greater impermeable spaces. And therefore, when we get to that point, it is important that these are considered and as much as possible taken into consideration in the designs. We are also required to look at the any possible alternative uses for the space. And The first alternative is that you take no action. And this means that the proposed project site remains as is without any development. This eliminates the added value and upliftment it would bring to the surrounding communities. There would be no additional job creation, and the Houses of Parliament would remain at Gordon House on Duke Street, where the space would continue to remain a problem. The other option would be to have a public garden or a pleasure park or recreational area, which is all in line with the Act and the prescribed uses of the space, and it would not have a Houses of Parliament building on it. And the EFJ had actually proposed this some years ago, and that would be the alternative. In conclusion, the project we have identified has the potential to generate both negative and positive impacts. However, the negative impacts are anticipated to be short-term and reversible, and it is felt that the project overall will result in an overall improvement in the area and nearby communities. And based on the findings of the environmental impact assessment, it is a consultant's professional opinion that once the recommended mitigation measures are followed and implemented, the project is not likely to result in significant environmental impacts. However, with the future development plans for the general area, it is important that consideration be given to improving the water supply for the area, the sewage and general solid waste management of the area, as well as the use of permeable parking spaces, rooftop green spaces, rainwater harvesting, and solar energy. These are all highly recommended in future considerations in the development of the area, as well as traffic management, and how that is implemented is also important for consideration. I thank you.
I am going to shift my position a bit. You will still find me here because the focus isn't really on me now. It's on questions. And if you joined late, let me just advise you how we'll be taking the questions. We are going to take questions from the call-in lines first. That's Power 106 and the Environmental Solutions Limited lines. We'll take questions on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, and in-person audience. Now, a number of questions have been fed to me, so I'm going to begin there. Errol in Spanish Town, call-in line, says, I think they really need a new parliament. As you see, the building is too small for them, especially when it comes to social distancing. It is going to cost taxpayers a lot, but it is needed. All right, that's one of the, I'm going to go now to a Zoom question. And this one is to be answered by either the UDC or Minister Mackenzie. They have asked. Given, and this is from Carol Narcisse, given the estimated 35,000 people living in 5 proximate communities needing active recreational space, the park being the only such of its size, what other location options have been considered to the UDC or to Minister Desmond Mackenzie?
Well, I'll start. I don't know if Minister wants to follow up, but I don't think any alternate is required because the park, as it is 52 acres, and we have at least 38 acres of public green space that will be developed. It is one of the most significant green spaces in the country. It will be it's one of the most significant green spaces in Kingston and St. Andrew. It is over 38 acres of green space that will be upgraded and developed. You're not hearing me? She says she's not hearing me. Are you hearing me clearer now? In response to the question about alternate green spaces, in planning this project, we did not consider alternate green spaces because the green space in the National Heroes Park will be made available to the communities that surround it after the removal of after the placing of the Houses of Parliament on about 8 acres from the 52 acres. That leaves us with over 38 acres of green space. So we will have a significant, large, developed green space for the use of the communities around.
Thank you. I go to Facebook. Zadie Newfield asks, why do you want to destroy the National Heroes Park with a restricted access complex? Build a National Library complex there and boost inner city renewal in historic Trenchtown by locating your Parliament building on the many acres of idle lands there. And this is to UDC or Minister Mackenzie. Minister Mackenzie, they're saying that they want you to answer.
My response to that is that Heroes Park represents a significant landscape in the country. And what is important is not where the Parliament is built. Not hearing me? Yes. In response, I don't think that suggestion is worthy of consideration. No, the location is ideal for a Parliament building, and we want to lift the standard of how we operate governance at a national level. And that is my frank and upfront response to the caller's suggestion.
Thank you. On YouTube, no name was provided, but will the House of Representatives and the Senate have the Westminster color accents, green and red respectively? And this is for Design Collaborative. Chris or Damien? Did you hear? You're on Zoom. Will the House of Representatives and the Senate have the Westminster color accents, green and red respectively? Going to ask our participants on Zoom, just need for you to respond to that, please. Chris or Damien?
Go ahead, Damien. I'll pass it to Damien.
The palette is actually more neutral.
Could we turn that up a bit so we can hear, please?
The greens and the reds.
Could you repeat for us?
The palette is more neutral than the greens and the reds. So within this new Parliament, I'm not per se taking Westminster as the model, but through our workshops in Jamaica, our palette again is more neutral. There's lots more woods, there's lots more fabrics. The fabrics will have multiple colors. So you will get some greens, you will get some grays, you will get some neutrals. You may get some spots of red, but it is not as overt as copy pasting the Westminster model.
Thank you, sir. Going back to the phone lines, Rachel from Spanish Town. I recall there was a conversation some time back, but I want to be sure that what was designed is going to be the future building and the cost of it. Now, who am I going to ask to take this? Minister, you look as if you're the right person. Yeah, you take it. Ms. Heather Pinnock, UDC, yes?
Just for clarity, was the question, is the building that's to be designed the one that won the competition?
It says, but I recall there was a conversation some time back, but I want to be sure that what was designed is going to be the future building and the cost of it.
Okay, so I just want to reassure everyone, because as you recall, we had a public design competition, and this project, out of many one people, designed by Design Collaborative Limited, was the winner. What they have done is taken that winning design and refined it and improved it and gone through details. So what we have now is the final version of that concept design that won the design competition. And as for the cost, the estimated cost for the construction of the building is just over 50 million US.
All right, so I'm now going to Zoom. And this is Imani Duncan Price. She supports the first part of Karen Narcisse's question, and then she says, why couldn't this be built out and maintained like NHT does with Emancipation Park as a people's park, given how Kingston has grown and the nature of the socio-economic realities of the many surrounding communities? I don't know who is going to take that one. The mayor? Mayor? No? Who wants to take that? Let me ask it again. Why couldn't this be built out and maintained like NHT does Emancipation Park as a people's park, given how Kingston has grown and the nature of the socio-economic realities of the many surrounding communities? It really, yes, Ms. Pinnock? Or Minister? Okay.
Okay, I think what I will do is reiterate the first part of the what I'll do is reiterate the first part of the answer to Ms. Narcisse's question, which was about if there would be any green space for the communities. So I think she's referencing that question. I just want to reinforce that indeed there will be over 38 acres of green space. Regarding the management and long-term maintenance, we are working through how that will work, how that will function, and how that will be funded in detail. And I'm sure those details will be shared in the future. We have not had any discussions with the National Housing Trust in that regard.
Thank you. On Facebook, I think this is Duval Powell. I'd like to know if each MP will have an office in this new building. I did not see any in the design. So I think the designers should answer that. Chris or Damien, yes, the answer is yes. Minister Mackenzie says yes. Each MP will have an office. Not a shared space. Not shared space. Okay. Let me move now. Do we have any questions from anyone here? Because in-person questions I need to take as well. We have a flow. Yes, there is. Could you just engage your microphone, please?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Or good night, good evening, yes, everyone. I'm David Allen. I'm fortunate to chair the Fletcher's Land Management Benevolent Society. There are a number of concerns, much of which I think was addressed. But one in particular is of concern to me. It spoke about, the project talked about community-centric. And where I have a difficulty is I don't see the structure trying to reach outside of the Heroes Park. I see that there's much work in terms of giving people access, but there are some challenges that may disallow persons from accessing the park. In particular, there are persons who jog there at times and have had to stop because of issues related to being robbed as well. So how does the building of the park improves the external areas of the park so people can help to build out that area to be much safer, much more inclusive, and have a more community-centric, as how I see it, kind of facility?
Who can answer that question from the designers? And that seems like that's Chris or Damien.
Yeah. This is Chris Bent. I'll respond to that one. First of all, we are designing, we're the designers for the park and the House of Parliament building. So some of those areas are outside of our jurisdiction, but what I can say is that when you have significant urban development like this, as we mentioned, it's a catalyst for other types of development to happen around the site. The idea is that we want to create a safe environment for much longer hours during the day and even into the afternoon and into the evening, that people will feel comfortable to go there. What will result over a period of time is that other areas around the edges of those developments and the main corridors leading towards that park area will see the benefit to start to develop their own businesses and own kind of service areas, which will encourage more people to come to that area to feel safer opportunities, like I mentioned in my part of the presentation, where you have the corn and crab vendors there. If they're feeling more secure in where they are at now, currently, and in the future, they will be expanding their businesses, running it for much later on in the evenings, and that will encourage more people to come. The more people you have in an area, the safer you feel. And it encourages more secured access to those areas. So I think it's a catalyst. We can't solve all of those problems with just one project, but it will start to help to improve a lot of areas around the site and you know, branching off on different arteries away from the site.
I just want to chip in here. The construction of that facility will bring a different look. It means, therefore, that the communities around will have to become a part of the new development. And what will eventually happen is the level of security and participation in the area will grow, and the opportunities will be much greater. And I think the level of security that will come is going to be one that the communities around there will definitely buy in, because it is for their advantage more than anything else.
Thank you. And just before I go directly to the person who is on Zoom live, there's a Zoom question directed to you. And many people ask, why not develop somewhere the actual downtown area for an upgraded and inclusive parliamentary building?
Downtown Kingston is at its capacity in terms of development. So, you know, there is actually nowhere downtown that could fit all a development as the one being proposed. And you must remember that parking in downtown Kingston is a major concern. So Eros Circle is in the heart of the city. It sits on the border of St. Andrew and Kingston, and it is in an ideal location, Remember now, we have the Bank of Jamaica, the Supreme Court, we have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have the UDC building, we have Jamintel building, we have Victoria Pier. This is all along the Kingston waterfront. There's actually nowhere else in downtown Kingston to facilitate any more development. It is bursting at the seam, it is overpopulated. And we have the heart of the city, which is Crossroads going up, which is underdeveloped. And the development of Eros Park is the beginning of the government's transformation of the inner part of the city of Kingston going upwards. We have New Kingston. Crossroads is a barren land. The development begins at Eros Park to go further.
For those of you who may not have heard my comment at the start of the program, we're going to try to take as many questions as possible. We had put aside half an hour, but if you did not get your question attended to, you are given another 21 days after this meeting to submit your questions and or comments to NEPA. And they will be dealing with it. I'll remind you of the email address and all of that. And it's 10 Caledonia Avenue. That's one place you can go, but I'll give you the applications. Applications at nepa.gov.jm. Applications at nepa.gov.jm. All right. Could you unmute the President of the Senate for me, please? Tom Tavares Finson is on Zoom and he has a question. Go ahead, please, sir. Is he still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, could you turn him up so we can hear, please? Thank you, sir. Thanks. Could you go ahead with your question?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me today, and thank you for the presenters and all the persons who have taken the time to participate in this exercise. Three quick things I want to say. A questioner asked whether you asked the designers whether they would be maintaining the green and red scheme in the chambers of the Commons or the House of Parliament and the Senate. And I thought that Damien's response was somewhat glib, because he said, we will not be cutting and pasting from Westminster. The use of the color green and the color red has tremendous significance in terms of the development of the Westminster system, which we have in Jamaica. I suggest, with the greatest of respect, that you look into the origins of those colors, and you will understand why it is the color green is used throughout the Commonwealth in the lower house, and the color red is used in the upper house or Senate throughout the Commonwealth. This is not something that we are merely cutting and pasting from Westminster. We are a part of that. That's the system that we employ, and I suggest that you look into it. Number one. Number two, where the military base is down to the southern end, I believe, of the park, I think that residents who live there would tell you that the military changes their guard on a regular basis there, but no one ever sees it. I think that it would be very important, a good addition, if the change of the guard can be observed by the citizens from outside the park. And finally, I looked at the list of, pictures of the flowers that you had, and I noticed that I did not see any poinciana. My vote is that poinciana trees be used in the park, primarily because they provide great shade. And in fact, when they bloom, the bloom remains on the trees for as much as a month. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. He was paying rapt attention. Thank you, Tom Tavares Finson. Now I go to a question from YouTube, and that's Emma Lewis. I hope the design people listen to the suggestion there, right? Emma Lewis, how is it community-centric? I imagine it will be flanked by numerous security guards. And a sort of watcher comment from the minister. Would you not like to press your microphone and make the... He says we are not having a fortress. All right. Let me go now. I think we need to go to an in-person question. Anybody else in here? Yes, there's a question over here. Please, just thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good.
I am Junior White from the Almond Town community and a member of the Central Kingston Executive. There have been a fear of the residents of being relocated. We, from the last town hall meeting and which have been spread, not by the persons at the town hall meeting where the UDC is concerned, but outside of the town hall meeting, persons interpret the whole meeting in a different format. So it has been spread across the community that persons who live there will be relocated once the Parliament building project will start.
Let me take this question as the person that has been tasked by the Most Honorable Prime Minister and the Cabinet to head the task force for the construction of the facility. I want to make this abundantly clear that there will be no dislocation of any community to facilitate the construction of the Parliament building. There will be no work outside of Euro Circle. As a matter of fact, the construction of the Parliament building will bring greater efficiency and upgrade the value of the existing communities around the Parliament building. And it is the intention of the government, not only while building out a Parliament building, but to also look at the physical structure around the various communities that people live, and to work to improve those facilities while we build a new Parliament building. So let me dispense the fear and get rid of the rumor mongers who is trying to distort something that should have been done many years ago, but because the will was not there to do so. This administration has the will, and we are proceeding.
There is a question on Zoom from Rosemary Brown. Is the Houses of Parliament not a subset of much larger development plan for the area? Why then isolate the EIA for just the Houses of Parliament?
Rosemary?
Yeah, Rosemary Brown.
Okay, Ms. Brown, I want to confirm that there is a larger concept being developed, as Minister Mackenzie just addressed. However, the larger project is in very early stages. We're going through feasibility assessments. At this time, the Houses of Parliament, further to the design competition that was held a year ago, is a project that is ready to go forward, and it is a project scheduled for what is essentially a vacant site, so it allows us to start this project first. When the other projects are being developed, all of the other projects, they must go through this process. As our representative from NEPA has described, there must be a process as part of the approvals where we make an application, where an environmental impact assessment would be determined, and where the environmental impact assessment would be done in accordance with what is designed. So this assessment is for the Parliament building. As we continue work in the communities and the various kinds of functions and developments that will be in the community, we will have to do environmental impact assessments for those projects as well when they reach that level. So this is the first. There is much more to come.
Thank you, Ms. Park. Jay on YouTube. Are the buildings green buildings and energy efficient? What percentage of the site will generate its own electricity? Designers, Chris and Damien? Are the buildings green buildings, energy efficient? What percentage of the site will generate its own electricity?
Yes, relative to the building design, we are shadowing leadership in energy and environmental design standards, where we're shadowing LEED Gold. And with that, the building not only is looking at reducing energy from its mechanical systems, but we've also designed the building to integrate systems such as solar, such as reverse metering, and other systems as they come online or are added to the project. So what we could say today, there is another standard, ASHRAE 90.1, which is an international standard that measures a building's performance. What we could say today in modeling, this building will perform 20% better than ASHRAE 90.1 standards. So the solution for energy is not, say, one solution, all PV or all battery or all this energy or that energy. What we have taken per the LEED standards is a systematic approach about the materials we choose, the mechanical systems we use, both for electricity, for water, for air. And we look at it holistically about how the building then performs. So again, from a modeling standpoint, the building is shadowing LEED Gold, which is a very high standard. And from an energy standpoint, the building has modeled out to perform plus 20% better than ASHRAE 90.1.
Thank you. I have a question that one of the call-in numbers, where no name was given. Where is the $50 million US coming from to build a new parliament? Where is the 50 million? Is billion? Yeah, where's the 50 million US dollars coming from to build the new parliament? Yeah, please take it, Minister.
We are a sovereign country, and the government will, through its resources, provide the funding. There will be no added taxation on the Jamaican people to build the facility. So we are a sovereign country, and we have to build our parliament building. So it is the responsibility of the government, and the funds will be made available.
I'm gone back to Zoom, and I think I'm just going to ask two questions from different persons here. This is an important question for Mr. Dunbar, or Mr. H.M. Dunbar. How will persons visiting the park who drive be able to park when visiting the park? And the other question is, looking at the recent flooding in urban areas, what has been incorporated in the design to manage stormwater runoff from the site? So that's designers, Chris and Damien. Just for you who are maybe joining or joined late, we are working both from a physical location, the Jamaica Conference Center, and also Zoom, so some of our speakers are on Zoom. Chris and Damien, how will persons visiting the park, where will they park if they drive?
Yeah, we have provided parking throughout the park for primarily for the users of the building. We have in the order of 470 parking spaces for the operations of the building. Other than that, we provided some amount of parking, which is at the southern end of the site at the shrine area. And then there also will be parking, perimeter parking, parallel parking around the actual park itself. Additional parking is really outside of our scope, but for what I understand, there will be future provisions made for that. That's my understanding for general public parking around, located in different locations around the site.
All right.
And in terms of stormwater,
yes, please,
management and how we're controlling that, as was mentioned by Teresa in her presentation, we through our civil engineers, we've calculated the kind of water and amount of water that will be generated on site in the case of a rain event. And we've made provisions for 2 large detention holding areas at the southern end of the site. The water will be collected through a series of cisterns and pipes from the northern end, and it will be channeled down on either side, on the east and west side, into these 2 holding areas, detention areas, which will then, after the rain event, it will slowly release the water into the existing infrastructure and into Barnes, eventually into Barnes Gully. What we should also point out is that after the entire site is reworked, currently now the soil is so compact because of lack of maintenance that it's almost like concrete, so there's not a lot of absorption of water into the soils as it is. But by the time we finish developing the land, the soils will be reactivated and there will be a lot more absorption happening on the site. And as you can see, we've created a whole lot of green space, and not only the green space, but a lot of the walkways that we've created are not paved walkways. Some of them are, but some of them will allow water to pass through them. Some of them will be gravel paved areas with loose gravel, so that water can still pass through them. So we've done everything that we can to maximize the amount of control of stormwater. We certainly will not increase any of runoff from the site in terms of storm or rain events. We will try to contain everything that we can on site until it's appropriate to let it into the system.
Thank you. There's a question. I think we have about 5 minutes left there. I'm going to come to you. I'm just going along the route here. You're next. To Keith Smith, I would like to know when construction will begin and what's the total size of the parliament. What? Yes, well, when construction will begin and what's the total size of the parliament?
Okay, let me start with what is the total. Let me start with what is the total size. The footprint of the Parliament building takes up about 8 acres. The 8 acres is obviously less than the 11.4 acres that was allocated under the Act. We have planned out the entire 11 acres for the Parliament space, including access, driveways, and things like that. The balances are just over 38 acres of green space. So I hope that clarifies the space, the sizes. And for when do we expect it to start, I must be careful to say that I think she means when will construction start, because yes, we've started for some time. We had a design competition, we have gone through design work, and I want to make clear that all of these are important parts in getting a building built. The building doesn't, when you start construction, is not the only start. Quite a bit of work goes in before. So at this time where we are in doing this EIA is a part of the approvals process. We aim to complete these approvals over the next month or 2. Thereafter, we intend to go to tender. Tender should take no more than 6 months, and so we would aim to be breaking ground by the middle of next year, by the summer of next year, summer of 2021.
Thank you very much. But I'm going now to a member of the audience present. Could you say your name and your community?
Yes, hello, good night. My name is Raquel Walker. I'm one of the vendors at the Eras Circle, crab vendors. Now, my question is, how will the vendors be treated during the development of the construction and after the construction?
I will take this one because the vending takes place in my constituency, and I actually enjoy lunch there probably 2 or 3 times on a weekly basis. The intention is to improve the facilities that the vendors presently utilize. There will be no dislocation of the vendors, and we will make the accommodation worthy of the new construction, but that will be done in consultation with the vendors. So we will not just throw anything at you. We will bring in the mayor and we will have a discussion as to how and what kind of design is best suited for the purpose.
Thank you, Minister.
Yeah, just to add.
Oh, sorry, Mayor.
Just so remember, in the report from the AIA report brief, there are inconveniences caused by construction. And if you note, it was specifically said there were mitigating measures that could be taken, for example, to reduce the dust and other measures. So that is at the forefront of the thinking in terms of ensuring that during the construction phase that you are not inconvenienced in any way that would affect the business. So we're looking at all of that. But in terms of if you're thinking about relocating, no, the minister has spoken on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, guess what? We started questions at 7:23, and we've gone beyond the half hour that we had allocated. There is one that the last one I want to do here is a Zoom question, and it says, from Elizabeth Pigou, having read the EIA document, I note that the report itself documents concerns from members of adjacent communities and their overall lack of enthusiasm for the proposal. The report referred to the need for UDC to enhance its messaging so as to address the concerns of residents. My question is, to what extent has the messaging changed and addressed the residents' concerns?
Well, I will start the answering, but I think I may need to have the minister join me. Just want to clarify the role of the UDC. UDC is the project manager on behalf of the government of Jamaica. This project is not UDC's project only, it's a project on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica, and therefore the messaging is not only from the agency, but from the agency or parent ministry and beyond. So I just want to clarify that. But beyond that, we have engaged the community quite a bit. I'm sure we all recall we have had 2 town halls near or on the site. We have since had ongoing meetings with community representatives, with the members of parliament. We had a formal public update last year before the COVID shutdown, where we also had tree planting. So we had a formal update event and tree planting. Beyond that, as we go forward into construction, we'll be having more detailed discussions and meetings with the community. This, of course, is one level of community meeting, but we recognize that this kind of setting is not always ideal, so we also have community meetings at smaller scales as well. All of this messaging is, again, not only the UDC, but indeed the whole government. As you can see, we have government ministers here with us, both in person and online, because this is an effort of the entire government.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming very close to the end of this public consultation meeting when the environmental impact assessment was shared. Many questions have been asked and many more are still coming in. Might I remind you that you have 21 days after this meeting has ended to submit your comments and questions. And the ones that have already been recorded, those will also be submitted with the ones that you might want to submit after this evening's function. So please bear that in mind. Applications at nepa.gov.jm. That's where you send your comments, your questions, your queries. And now it is time for the closing remarks. So might I invite Honorable Minister Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development and Member of Parliament for Western Kingston, to bring the closing remarks. Yes, sir, you may sit there and do it. Videographer, that's okay with you? No, they want you up there. Sit there, no? No? They want him up there? Yes, they need you up there. I'm getting 2 sets of instructions. Let me thank everyone while the minister prepares for your questions, your concern, your interest. And keep those questions and comments coming. You have 21 more days so to do. Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Faye. Ladies and gentlemen, those present here, Madam Speaker, His Worship the Mayor and councillors, colleagues, ministers, Mr. Mark Golding, ladies and gentlemen. This evening is the continuation of what have been started by the UDC as the General Manager mentioned. This is a continuation of the process of consultation that we have started since this project came on board. Number of issues have been raised, and I was pleased with the presentation from the doctor who gave a fantastic presentation outlining and addressing some of the concerns. I just want to quickly state that the residents in the communities surrounding Era Circle should have no fear. There is no intention for any dislocation, any demolition of houses or moving out of persons to facilitate the construction of the Parliament building. This will be done inside the Eros Park. It will be done on a limited in a limited area, not the entire area that has been prescribed in the order
for the construction. So that is one of the fears that we want to put to rest. Disruption will necessarily come because of the question of the construction, but not the kind of disruption that will create any hardships for the various communities around the area. The development will bring a positive result to the area. It will create employment, both formal and informal employment, because you know where construction sites are situated, a lot of things will be required. And I want to give the assurance to the communities around Euro Circle, around where this building will be built, that employment will be provided for the residents once they meet the, and let me be clear on this, when we say employment will be provided, not because you live there and if the job calls for a carpenter, you have to be a carpenter to get the job. But the manual labor, whatever the jobs are available, the community will have the first shot at the job. And it is not just during the construction period, but we are anticipating that after the development has been constructed and the building is in operation, that there will be employment opportunities for the communities. It is a part of building the community and to allow the community to own the Parliament building, although the Parliament building belongs to the entire Jamaica. But the communities around will have a special place because it will be right in their backyard. And I am giving the assurance as one of the members of Parliament who sits on the border of the development, and I know I can speak for the Member of Parliament for Central Kingston who is sitting here in the audience, and I think I'm bold enough to say on behalf of MP Mark Golding, and there's a fourth MP, MP Julian Robinson, because it is actually 4 constituencies that surrounds the Eros Park, 2 in Kingston and 2 in St. Andrew. But I want to say the government has to make a decision to create a new Parliament building. Already questions are asked, what is the cost when we sit here at the conference center, and if we can afford it? If we were being charged the full amount, I know we probably get a little discount to sit here. But it is important that the Parliament of the country has a place that really represents what we are all about. And that building that we presently occupy now as the Parliament was actually built for the KSAC back in the 60s. And it is being used as a temporary location for over 50 years. And with the numbers in our present Parliament growing, we are at 63 now, and I think there are room for more constituencies to be created. It therefore means that the importance of a new modern Parliament that reflects what Jamaica is like. And you know, we are the first country in the Caribbean to achieve independence. And there are many other countries that have come after us whose Parliament building is, you know, something to be proud of. Not that we are not proud of our Parliament building, but it has reached the stage now that we have outgrown that facility, and the time has come, and the government is committed to build a Parliament building that represents what the country is all about. I want to urge all Jamaicans, let us be one Jamaica on this building. It is for the people of Jamaica, regardless of which party is building it. It is for the people of Jamaica where we can operate in a manner that is befitting a country such as ours. So I want to say a special word of thanks to the UDC under the stable and calm leadership of its general manager and the team who have been doing a fantastic job. And the support that has been given so far. As I said before, I've been tasked to lead the task force to see the process of this development through, and I am taking a lot of pride that I've been asked to do so. So ladies and gentlemen, it is a collective response from a wide cross-section of government and those who have been online, who have made their participation. I want to thank you. And again, we're looking forward to good things as we continue the development of Kingston, which is the largest capital city, English-speaking capital city in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. It gives me pleasure now to ask Ms. Heather Pinnock, the General Manager of the Urban Development Corporation, to move the vote of thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I want to thank you for being a part of this next milestone in this process as we move towards making this development happen. This evening's session has been a part of the process, and we're pleased that so many members of the public have joined us on our various platforms online and on radio via Power 106. This reflects the deep interest that the public has in this project and the accountability that all players involved have to ensure that the new Houses of Parliament serves both the government and, more importantly, all our fellow citizens. We are mindful of the people involved and the processes that must be adhered to in bringing this project to fruition, and remain committed to ensuring that this is done in the interest of all Jamaicans. And as such, I really want to thank all of the community members who have been here with us today, as well as their representatives. As you will see, we have been joined by MPs and councillors alike, which speaks very much to the interest of the communities surrounding. As we move towards the development of the new Houses of Parliament together, I want to thank Honourable Minister Desmond McKenzie for being here tonight and for leading the charge, along with His Worship Mayor, Councillor Delroy Williams, and for their participation in this important step. I want to thank the Design Collaborative team and all the consultants who have worked on this design, including Environmental Solutions Limited, who have done tons of hard work and have shown great commitment in bringing this project to life. I have a long list of thank yous, and so I'll try to summarize them, because the thank yous are not only for tonight, but for the process we have, the journey we have been on so far to date, and the journey that will take us to the completion. So I want to thank all the members of the upper and lower house. I want to, and in particular, our Prime Minister, who has taken a very special interest in this project and has been leading us very directly throughout. I want to thank the Clerk of the House and all of the staff at the Houses of Parliament who have been a big part of the planning and development process. I want to thank our local government representatives, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, councillors, and indeed their mayor who leads them. I want to also give a special thanks to our portfolio ministry, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, to our Permanent Secretary, Audrey Sewell, and her representative, the CTD, tonight. Again, I want to thank all of the design teams, and I must thank all of the supporting ministries, departments, and agencies that have worked with us to bring us to this point. I'll just name a few. This time I need to mention especially the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation and their staff, led by our dear friend, the TC, Robert Hill. And I want to thank the team from NEPA, Peter Knight and the team from NEPA. NEPA keeps us on our toes and keeps this process going, which is how we're doing this EIA tonight. I want to thank the other agencies who work with us, the NWC, the NWA, the Water Resources Authority, the Fire Authority, the Social Development Commission, the NSWMA, and JNHT, and many, many others. I could go on all night. I want to make a special thanks to the Public Investment Management Committee and Secretariat. They have overseen this project and given initial approvals, and we'll be working with them as we take it forward. Again, I want to close by really thanking the members of the community. I'm glad we had our crab vendor here tonight, as well as all members from the community. It is very important to us that you are part of the discussion, that your concerns are raised and addressed, and again, always to make clear that these large public sessions are not the only opportunity to give feedback. We have many other options. There is time until the 21st for this particular EIA, but at all times, we as designers and project managers are open to feedback from everyone. And finally, I want to thank the public. And I want to thank the media who allow us to engage the public, particularly the Jamaica Information Service and Power 106 tonight, and all our media partners. And I want to thank everyone out there who has been a part of this process. As I said, the journey is not yet complete. We continue on this journey, and we hope to have you with us. And finally, I want to thank the board, led by our chairman, Senator Braham, management and staff of the UDC for their tireless work in this and all the projects we put together to continue the good work of making development happen in Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. I don't have to do any thank yous. I'll just turn my back to this mic so I don't have the feedback. You want to power down this one for me? Right. I just want to give a little bit of history. That will take 10 seconds. This building that you're in, we are just in one of the several conference rooms, and there are caucus rooms, and there is a canteen and restaurant and all of that. They took 12 months to build it. 12 months. And it was opened in February 1983. And although it is built to international standards, every caucus room or conference room has Jamaican artifacts and local material. Every single one of them. I just like to say these things because sometimes people walk into a space and place and don't fully understand the history. It was really built initially for the International Seabed Authority, but that didn't happen because everybody didn't sign on, but here we are. And at the front of the building, the names of every person who contributed to the building listed there on brass tablets. And you have the Jamaican proverb, 1-1 cocoa, full basket. That was 82 to 83, and I had the privilege and pleasure of hosting a half-hour television program every month. And David Reed, the tenor, he would do a song in those programs every month as we build and show the progress of this. 12 months, Patrick Stanigar, the architect. From UDC, indeed. Please remember, everyone, that you'll be given another 21 days after this meeting. It's being concluded now in about 30 seconds to submit your comments and questions. For those of you, and there were several comments that we couldn't get to, right? But, and questions. But we've taken them, and then you have the opportunity to submit more to NEPA, applications at nepa.gov.jm, applications at nepa.gov.jm. Let us hear from you if you have concerns, questions, or queries. And we thank you again for your participation, and a verbatim report, every single word that was said at this public consultation will be prepared, and in 7 days it will be at NEPA for the public to view. Thanks again. Walk good, get home safely. There's going to be rain ahead in the next few days, so take care of yourselves and make sure you have whatever you need to have if you have to be going out on the road. To the team from Environmental Solutions, yes, they have been working tirelessly at the back of the room, and I just want to acknowledge them. The team from the JIS and other audiovisual support people, and the team for the Jamaica Conference Center. Thank you for your facilities and your support. Thank you. This environmental impact assessment public consultation meeting. May I ask you to stand for the playing of the national anthem? This environmental impact assessment public consultation meeting. May I ask you to stand for the playing of the national anthem?